Okay, this is Nature of Science, Lesson 3, and today we're going to talk about the compound microscope, its parts, and its functions. So please have out your note packet and follow along. As you can see, this is the type of microscope that you've probably used before when you were in the middle school. It's the same microscope that we will use this year. Today we're going to talk about the compound microscope. You're going to see a short little video, which will also talk about the stereo microscope. The stereo microscope is used for macroorganisms, things that are bigger that we want to look at, their parts in more detail, and then the compound microscope is used for microorganisms, things that are very, very small and difficult to see with the naked eye. Number 1 is called the body tube. This actually extends the viewer, so you don't have to lean down as close to the microscope in order to view the specimen. Number 2 is called the revolving nose piece. This rotates the 3 objective lenses that you see here. One is low power and 2 higher power. Here you have number 3 is the low power objective. Then you have a medium power objective and a high power objective. The low power objective, number 3, shows the object on the slide with some detail, whereas number 5 increases the magnification and shows it with great detail. Number 6 are the stage clips right here. This holds the slide in place so that it doesn't move around while you're viewing it. Number 7 is the diaphragm. It's located under the stage, and that regulates the amount of light coming through the stage and into your organism that you're looking at. 8 is your light source. It provides the light for viewing. Number 9 is your ocular lens, and that is where we look through to see the object. 10 is called the arm. This is where you grasp the microscope with one hand, and then going down to number 14 is the base. You would put your other hand under the base to support the microscope when carrying it. Number 11 is the platform for the slide. And then you have your course adjustment, which we use in low power only. We only use the course adjustment in low power only. When you switch to a higher objective lens, then we use number 13, the fine adjustment, to increase the focus. And we already talked about 14. And these are all the things that I just went through as you saw on the microscope. Okay, next we're going to see a short video about the compound microscope.
I'm Brian Cleffer, and today I'll go over 2 common types of microscopes and the basic steps to operate each. There are 2 types of microscopes that might be in your classroom, the compound microscope and the stereo microscope. Here are some tips and tricks to help you successfully make the most of your microscope. First, let's talk about the difference between the compound and the stereo microscope. The compound is used to look at micro objects with higher magnification. And the stereo microscope has 2 eyepieces and 2 objectives so that you can see in stereo. The stereo microscope is used to look at macroorganisms. Now let's discuss the proper way to use a compound microscope. Remember, this microscope is different from a stereo microscope in that it is used to view microorganisms. The different parts of this microscope include objective lenses, which increase the magnification of the specimen. The aperture is the opening that varies the amount of light coming through the stage. The condenser is a lens that concentrates the light source. The iris diaphragm is the device that regulates the amount of light from the illuminator. The coarse and fine focus knobs are the focus adjustment controls. To use a compound microscope, first set it on a solid surface and plug it in. Make sure the excess cord is out of the way. Make sure that all the eyepieces are clean. You must have clean eyepieces in order to view the image clearly. If your eyepiece is dirty, remove the loose dirt with a blower brush or camel hair brush. Then you can clean the eyepieces with an alcohol lens cleaning solution. Remember, it's easier to apply the liquid cleaner to a tissue, not directly to the eyepiece. To prevent your eyepieces and objectives from getting dirty or dusty, keep the microscope covered when it's not in use. This is the same process can be repeated for the objectives if they are also dirty. First, dial the dimmer to its lowest setting. You will use low light levels when starting out because the lower objectives are bright and less light is needed. Then adjust the disc or iris diaphragm to regulate the amount of light coming through the stage. Start with a less opened aperture with low power objectives. Now rotate the lens turret to the lowest objective power, which is normally 4x. Then place your specimen on the stage so that the light will come through the area that you want to study. Turn the coarse focus knob until the image is in focus, then turn the fine focus knob to fine-tune the image. At this point, you may need to adjust the light to improve the image. After adjusting the light, you'll also need to adjust the focus one more time. When your image is in focus and it has enough light, begin to magnify it to the next objective. Follow the same steps in lighting and focusing to improve the image. Here's a tip. As you magnify the specimen to a higher objective, you will need to adjust the light values. Remember, higher power will need more light, and lower power will need less light. However, be sure to use caution with the high power objectives when focusing. The objective will come very close in contact with the specimen and could break the glass slide or damage the objective lens. When you're finished viewing the specimen, unplug the scope and place a dust cover on the scope. You can find these and similar microscopes at www.carolina.com.